Hello learners. In this lecture we will see the other three different types of cement that we have. So the next point of discussion what we have is a hydrophobic cement. So this hydrophobic cement is also called as water repellent cement. Now one doubt will come in our mind that how can any cement be a water repellent cement, because ultimately the cement has to react with water and only then it will try to form a cement mortar, right? And if it is not able to react with water, then it's of no use to us. Then why we call it as hydrophobic cement, right? So we'll try to see what it is all about. So how do you prepare a hydrophobic cement? We need to understand that. We'll take a OPC clinker. We'll try to add water repellent chemicals. Since I need to make it as a water repellent, I need to add certain water repellent chemicals, and if you try to add that, then the entire thing is called as hydrophobic cement. So the next thing that comes in our mind, what are these water repellent chemicals? So you can make use of stearic acid or oleic acid. So these two are called as water repellent chemicals. So in the OPC clinker, we'll try to add this in certain percentage so that finally this cement will become a hydrophobic cement, right? Yeah. So what exactly is this hydrophobic cement? So this cement provides the resistance against the moisture, that is the extra water, during the transportation and the storage. That means, let us say you stored your cement, okay, for 1 or 2 months, and let us say there was what you call and you did not cover that area, and due to rain and all, there's water around the cement. So the moment what will happen, the moment water is in contact with the cement, it will start its reaction, right? But in hydrophobic cement what will happen? So in the hydrophobic cement, let me do it here. So let us say this is a cement what you have, okay. So in the hydrophobic cement we have already added this water repellent chemicals, that is stearic acid and oleic acid. So this will form a protective layer around the cement particles, whatever cement particles we have, no, it is going to form a water repellent, I mean it's going to form a protective cover. So this protective cover will not allow the water to react with this. So that is why it is called as hydrophobic cement. So during the storage, whenever we want to store our cement for long time, let us say 1 or 2 months, and you don't have proper shed and all, so they may come in contact with water and all. In that case we need to save our cement, right? So that is why we can make use of hydrophobic cement. The second is during the transportation. Let us say you have a destination, you have a place called A here, and there is another place called B here. From here to here you need to transport this cement, and let us say it's going to take around 3 or 4 days for the transportation to happen. And let us say it is in the month of rainy season, and even though you try to cover that, even though you try to cover that with all the tarpaulin and all, still there are chances of water coming in contact with the cement. And if you're not making use of hydrophobic cement, what will happen? The moment the water comes in contact with that, it's going to start a reaction. But I want this transportation to happen. That is, I want my cement bags, a truckload of cement, to reach from A destination to B destination. So in that case I can make use of this hydrophobic cement again. So what will happen, even the water tries to go into the cement, okay, so what will happen, they will again form a protective layer. These two people, I mean this water repellent chemicals will form a protective layer, and they not allow the hydration of the cement to happen, right? Okay, that is fine. So for my point, what I've understood is good. But how long they are going to form a protective layer, that is very important, because ultimately you have to use them into the construction, right? So how do you use that? So we'll try to see that. So during the time of manufacturing of a concrete or mortar, what we do a rapid mixing. Rapid mixing is done to remove the layer of a chemical to make the cement similar to ordinary Portland cement. So what we try to do, actually, let me do it here. See, these are my cement particles, and again, and these people, these are forming a protective layer around that. We'll try to form a protective layer. That is good. So small water and all, it will try to resist. But finally, when the time has come for this particular cement to use in the practice or using the concrete, then what we have to do the good mixing. That means, how do you do a mixing? Let me do it here. Yeah, let us have taken a small what you call concrete mixer. Okay, this is my concrete mixer, okay, in this way. So when I try to add water into this, no, I add water into this, then what I do, I try to do a fast mixing. That means I'll try to mix it very hard, I mean try to mix it very fast. So due to that fast mixing, and due to that mechanical mixing, due to that mechanical mixer, since you're mixing it in a very fast, this protective layer will break out. This protective layer will break out, and once the protective layer is broken, what will happen? Water will react with that, and it will try to act like a normal ordinary Portland cement. Okay, normal cement will start its reaction. That is tricalcium aluminate, tricalcium silicate, and all will come and start their reaction. But until then, this guy who is forming a protective layer, no, that will be broken, and that layer will be broken when you do the fast mixing, right? That's it. So this is how it is going to play its role. That is why it is written here. Rapid mixing is done to remove the layer of a chemical to make this cement similar to OPC. Yeah. So you can see it here. This is one of the cement what is available in the market. It's written here, Ambuja Kavach. You can see that water it has. I mean, they have shown a picture of a water here, right? Yeah. You can see here, Zyada Gada and Zyada Majboot, right? So in this way, you can make use of this cement. Yeah. So the next cement what we have is a high alumina cement. So this is called as alumina based cement. So for cement what we are discussing, they were all silica based cement and all, right? But here we make use of alumina. So this cement is obtained by using below raw materials. That if we have a limestone, along with the limestone we try to add bauxite here. So what is this bauxite? A bauxite is a ore of aluminium. So the alumina content should be not less than 32%, because in the previous case we were restricting the alumina content to 3 to 8%, right? In the ordinary Portland cement you can see it was somewhere close to 5 to 8%, but here we are telling it should not be less than 32%. So what will happen if we try to add alumina in more amount? So coming to the properties, in 24 hours, up to 13 Newton per mm square or megapascal, MP or Newton per mm square is one and the same strength can be obtained. That is within 24 hours, what will happen? 30 MPa strength can be obtained. And coming to the initial setting time, IST stand for initial setting time. Your cement is going to set. Your cement is going to take set after 3.5 hours, but the final setting time is going to happen in 5 hours. But in the normal ordinary Portland cement, what used to happen? The initial setting time was around, let us say, 60, 70, or 80 minutes, right? And the final setting time was taking around, let us say, 7, 8 hours and all. But here, what will happen? The initial setting time itself is 3.5 hours, and final setting time will happen by 5 hours. So this is very important for us, because once you start to work in the site, so what we want, initial setting time for us should be more, because if the initial setting time is more, the laborers will find it very easy for the concrete to place and all. So this is actually a very good thing, that initial setting will get more time to place our concrete and all. And once the concrete is placed, we want it to set as early as possible. So here the final setting will happen within 5 hours. Yeah. Next is less sulfate attack. So now one question comes in our mind: how is that this particular cement can become a less sulfate attack? Because we are increasing the tricalcium aluminate content, that is C3A content, right? Alumina content we are increasing here, and we know that if alumina content is increased, what will happen? It will react with sulfate and it will try to form a sulfate attack. We already seen, and in the previous case we had reduced this C3A content and all. But here I am writing another point: by using this high alumina cement, I'm making it as less sulfate attack. So how is this possible? Because here what will happen, since your change, since we have limestone and bauxite we have added, the final product what we get, no, it's called as Ca, that is lime and alumina, and this will not change the volume. In the previous case, this tricalcium silicate was forming with, I mean, I'll write it here. It is to react with sulfate, and it is to form this CaSO4 and all, right? But here the product what we are getting is not CaSO4 and all. Here the product is Ca, which is called as lime and alumina. And here what used to happen, there was a change in the volume. It used to increase by 227% and all. But here there is no such change. Final, what I'm trying to tell is, here the product what you're going to form, it is not this product. So that is why it will have a less sulfate attack. And the next point what we have is it is refractory in nature. So what is the meaning of refractory? We'll try to see that. You can see it here. It's written high alumina cement. So in this way, these are the cement that is available in the market. Now we'll try to see what is refractory in nature. So before understanding refractory, you need to understand two things. One is fire resistance. Second is refractory. So whenever I say fire resistance, what do you mean by that? That is, whenever fire comes in contact with that material, it will not allow the fire to propagate. Let us say I have a brick wall. Okay. So in the brick wall, what will happen? The brick wall will not allow the fire to propagate. But whereas whether the wooden wall will allow, yes, wooden wall will allow the fire to propagate, whereas the brick wall will not allow the fire to propagate. This is called as fire resistance. What is refractory? So refractory is something, even though you put that to a very high temperature, it's not going to deform. Let us say these materials can withstand high temperature up to 200 degrees Celsius. So we human beings up to 50, 55 degrees Celsius we can resist, right? About 55, if the temperature goes, it's very difficult for us to survive. But during the manufacturing of the cement, what is going to happen? The temperature is somewhere close to 1600, 1400 to 1600. So there are certain materials, certain uh, materials which can even withstand this particular 1600 2000 degrees Celsius temperature even without deforming. So this refractory materials will not deform at high temperature. So this is the meaning of refractory. So by making use of high alumina cement, we can make it as a refractory in nature. Yeah. So last cement what we have is the air entraining cement. So whatever ordinary Portland cement you have, for that you need to put air entraining admixtures. So when we try to take up the concrete chapter, we'll try to see what is air entraining admixtures and all. But as of now, our point of discussions will be that air entraining cement is the one which is prepared by making use of OPC cement along with the air entraining admixtures, right? That's it. We have finished almost 6 to 7 different types of cement here. So in the next lecture, we'll try to see other different tests, how it has to be done. There are few other types of cement and all. You can, if you want, you can go through this. So the basic cement, what we use, I've already explained it. Yeah. So we'll see you back in the next lecture.